Across the globe, wild predators have challenged human settlements, creating moments of terror and survival. Some animals turn from wary creatures into relentless hunters of people, leaving communities shaken. Their attacks sparked intense hunts, stories of bravery, and deep questions about the balance between nature and man. Each of these cases reveals how unpredictable and dangerous the wild can become when pushed to its limits. This is the story of the most notorious man-eaters and the efforts to stop them. Champawat Tigress, the deadliest man-eater in history. Between 1890 and 1907, terror had a name, and it roared through the jungles of Nepal and India. She was the Champawat Tigress, a female Bengal tigress, who became the most prolific man-eater the world has ever known. With an estimated 436 human kills, she was not just a predator, she was a legend of death. She didn't fear man, in fact, she hunted them like prey. Her reign began in the rugged hills of Nepal, where entire villages were emptied by fear. People refused to leave their homes. Farmers abandoned their fields. Trails turned to ghost paths, lined with blood and silence. Driven out by an army too afraid to face her, she crossed into India, and the nightmare followed. This tigress was no ordinary killer. Wounded by an old bullet that damaged her jaw, she could no longer hunt her natural prey. So she turned to humans. Smart, fast, and eerily elusive, she struck in broad daylight, dragging her victims deep into the jungle. She seemed invincible, until Jim Corbett arrived. A hunter, tracker, and naturalist, Corbett took on the impossible. For days, he followed her trail through tangled forests and terrified villages. The final confrontation came on the 12th of May, 1907, near the village of Champawat. There, with villagers watching in tense silence, Corbett faced the beast in a dramatic showdown. With nerves of steel and a steady rifle, he fired the shot that ended her bloody reign. The Champawat Tigress was dead, but her legend lived on. Her skull rests in a museum, her story told in hushed tones. She remains the most fearsome symbol of nature's wrath, a creature that blurred the line between animal and monster, between hunter and hunted. The Tsavo man-eaters, lions of death. In the blistering heat of Kenya's Tsavo region, death stalked the railway camps, not in silence but with snarls, roars, and the gleam of golden eyes in the dark. It was 1898. The British were building the Uganda Railway, a feat of engineering that cut through the wild, untamed heart of Africa. But the workers weren't just battling the landscape, they were being hunted. Two massive, maneless male lions emerged from the wilderness and turned the camp into a killing ground. They didn't fear fire or fences. They leapt into tents, dragged men from their beds, and vanished into the night with screams echoing behind them. They weren't just predators, they were assassins. From March to December, chaos reigned. Terrified workers abandoned their posts. Rumors spread that the lions were not animals, but demons in lion form. Cursed spirits come to punish the living. Official records list 28 deaths. Eyewitnesses swore the true number was closer to 135. Enter Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson. Tasked with protecting the railway, Patterson became a hunter of legends. He built traps, waded through sleepless nights, and finally came face to face with the monsters of Tsavo. After weeks of relentless pursuit, he shot the first lion. Then, 20 days later, the second. Both beasts fell, but not before leaving a trail of blood and terror unmatched in modern history. Today, their mounted bodies loom in the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, silent but still menacing. The Tsavo man-eaters weren't just lions, they were living nightmares. Their story is a chilling reminder that sometimes in the wild, man is not the apex predator. Sometimes the shadows bite back, and they bite hard. Gustave, the demon of the deep. In the murky waters of Burundi's Ruzizi River and the northern shores of Lake Tanganyika, a monster lurks, a living legend known only as Gustave. This isn't just any crocodile. Gustave is a colossal Nile crocodile, estimated to be over 20 feet long and weighing nearly a ton. Locals whisper his name with fear, and for good reason. He's rumored to have killed between 200 and 300 people. He doesn't hunt for hunger, He kills for dominance. Gustave doesn't hide in the shadows. He's been seen dragging full-grown men, women, and even buffalo into the depths. Witnesses claim he often leaves the bodies uneaten, as if to send a message. This river belongs to him. He is a phantom, impossible to predict, impossible to catch. Attempts to stop Gustave have become the stuff of legend. Scientists and hunters have tried everything: traps, surveillance, even baited cages. He's avoided them all. One trap, big enough to hold a truck, was completely ignored. Cameras have caught fleeting glimpses: his gnarled body marked by bullet scars, his massive tail carving through the water like a torpedo. Locals call him a demon. They believe he's more than just an animal. He's a spirit of vengeance sent by the river itself. And year after year, as bodies disappear and stories grow, Gustave remains an unstoppable force. Despite efforts by researchers like Patrice Fay to study or capture him, Gustave has never been caught. His legend continues to ripple through the region. Larger than life, more terrifying than myth. He is ancient. He is untouchable. He is Gustave, the silent king of the river and the most feared crocodile on earth. If the waters seem calm, be warned. Gustave is still out there, and he's always watching. The Mulanje hyenas, nightmares in the mist. From 1955 to 1962, the peaceful highlands of Mulanje in Malawi were haunted by a terror no one saw coming. Not from the skies nor from deep jungle, but from the darkness just beyond the firelight. It came on padded feet and with bone-crushing jaws. It came in laughter, the eerie, blood-curdling cackle of spotted hyenas. But these were no ordinary scavengers. Over 7 chilling years, a clan of hyenas turned from opportunistic feeders into bloodthirsty predators. They killed 36 people, men, women, and children, and left many others horribly maimed. Never before had hyenas in the wild shown such targeted, sustained aggression toward humans. This was not nature. This was nightmare. The attacks were savage. Victims were dragged from huts in the dead of night, their screams echoing through the hills. Survivors spoke of glowing eyes, snapping teeth, and the sound of cruel laughter in the dark. Entire villages lived in terror, building barricades, keeping fires burning till dawn, and praying that tonight wasn't their night. Why these hyenas turned man-eater remains a mystery. Some blame disease or drought. Others claim the animals had acquired a taste for human flesh during past battles and funerals. A darker theory spread among locals, that these weren't just hyenas, but witches in animal form, cursed spirits sent to torment the living. Whatever the cause, the nightmare ended only after years of desperate hunting, trapping, and extermination. The clan was wiped out, but the legend still prowls. To this day, the Mulanje hyenas remain one of the most chilling anomalies in predator history. They defied science, shattered the natural order, and proved one terrifying truth: when the wild turns against you, even the shadows can kill. The Panar leopard, death in the darkness. In the shadowed hills of Kumaon, India, terror wore spots and moved like a ghost. He came silently in the night, through windows, rooftops, and even doors locked tight. He was the Panar man-eating leopard, one of the most feared predators in history, responsible for the deaths of over 400 people in the early 20th century. This was no ordinary leopard. This was a phantom, a cunning assassin that turned villages into graveyards. He preyed on the sick, the sleeping, and the unwary. Children vanished from cradles. Women disappeared while fetching water. The jungle fell silent not from peace but fear. The Panar leopard was said to strike with supernatural precision, slipping through pitch-black forests and torch-lit villages like smoke. The British colonial authorities were powerless. Local villagers believed he was no animal, but a demon in leopard skin, cursed by war and disease, feeding on human flesh abandoned during past epidemics. By 1910, the region was in a full-blown panic. Enter Jim Corbett, the legendary hunter and tracker, called upon once more to face a monster. He knew this would not be a battle of strength, but of wits. For days, Corbett stalked the killer through dense forests, following faint trails and blood-chilling clues. Then deep in the jungle, came the final encounter. One shot shattered the nightmare. The Panar leopard was dead, but the scars he left on Kumaon would never fade. More than a century later, his story remains one of the most chilling in the annals of man-eaters. A creature born of desperation, sustained by fear, and slain only by unmatched skill and courage. In the heart of India, where shadows stretch long and the night still whispers, the legend of the Panar leopard lives on. The beast of Gevaudan, France's bloodthirsty phantom. Between 1764 and 1767, the tranquil countryside of Gévaudan in south-central France descended into a waking nightmare. Something monstrous roamed the hills, a creature with burning eyes, bristling fur, and a hunger for human flesh. It struck without mercy, leaving only blood and fear behind. Locals called it La Bête, the beast of Gévaudan. This was no ordinary predator. Witnesses described it as larger than a wolf, with a massive head, a long tail, and claws that shredded flesh with ease. It moved like a shadow, silent and swift, tearing into its victims, often women and children, with terrifying ferocity. Between 113 confirmed deaths and over 200 reported attacks, the beast turned rural villages into fields of dread. Panic spread like wildfire. Hunters, soldiers, and nobles joined the hunt, including King Louis XV's finest marksmen. But no trap worked. No bullet brought it down. The beast seemed invincible. Some even believed it was supernatural, a werewolf, a demon, a punishment from God. And then came Jean Chastel, a quiet marksman and local farmer. On the 19th of June 1767, armed with a silver-tipped bullet and unshakable resolve, Chastel faced the monster deep in the forest. As the story goes, he prayed, aimed, and fired. The bullet struck true. The beast collapsed. The nightmare ended. To this day, no one knows what it truly was. A mutated wolf? A trained killer? A surviving prehistoric predator? Theories abound, but one truth remains. The beast of Gévaudan was real, and it fed on fear. Its legend still haunts the misty hills of France, where howls echo at dusk and travelers glance over their shoulders, wondering if La Bête truly died, or if it still waits just beyond the trees. The Kirov wolves, predators of war. In the frost-bitten forests of Kirov Oblast, Russia, from 1944 to 1954, a chilling terror emerged from the shadows, not in the form of warplanes or bombs, but in something far more primal: wolves. As World War II raged, chaos bled into every corner of the Soviet Union. Hunters went to the front lines. Ammunition was scarce. Villages were hollowed out. And in the vast, snow-covered wilderness of Kirov, nature reclaimed its dominance. Then the killings began. Packs of bold, starving wolves, once wary of humans, grew fearless. With no predators and no pressure, they prowled closer to villages, bolder with each passing winter. And then they crossed a line few wild animals ever dare. They began hunting children. Over a single decade, 22 children and teenagers were torn from yards, trails, and school paths, dragged into the woods under a pale sun or blood-red dusk. Survivors spoke of glowing eyes, coordinated attacks, and haunting howls that pierced the night like sirens of death. Villagers fought back, but their weapons were few and outdated. Every creak of the snow could be death. Children traveled in groups, or not at all. School attendance plummeted. Entire communities lived on edge, haunted by the knowledge that the wolves were watching. It wasn't until the war ended and hunting resumed that the wolf population was pushed back and the killing stopped. But by then, the damage had been done. The Kirov wolves had become a legend, a chilling reminder that when the balance between man and nature is broken, the wild doesn't ask for permission. It takes, and sometimes it takes with teeth and blood. The leopard of Rudraprayag, terror in the Himalayas. From 1918 to 1926, a silent killer prowled the sacred hills of Garhwal, India. Pilgrims walked in fear, prayers cut short by screams in the night. The forest whispered of a ghost with fangs, the leopard of Rudraprayag, a male man-eater that claimed 125 confirmed lives over 8 blood-soaked years. This was no ordinary predator. This leopard defied nature itself, hunting humans with cunning and patience, slipping past locked doors and climbing rooftops like a phantom. Villagers would wake to find loved ones missing, dragged away in the dead of night, their bodies found days later in twisted, half-eaten forms. Even sacred ground was no sanctuary. Devotees traveling to the holy shrines of Kedarnath and Badranath faced death with every step. Fear gripped the region, camps were abandoned, entire villages emptied. The British and local hunters failed time and again. The leopard was invincible, a demon in spotted skin, until Jim Corbett arrived. The legendary hunter took on the challenge that had defeated so many. He tracked the beast through rugged mountain trails, studied its every move, and waited. For months, Corbett stalked the unseen killer, setting traps, spending sleepless nights under moonlight, rifle in hand. Then on the 2nd of May, 1926, in the stillness of night near Rudraprayag, the final encounter came. A flash of movement. A heartbeat skipped. A single perfect shot rang out. The terror was over. The leopard of Rudraprayag fell, but his legacy endures as one of the most chilling man-eaters in history. What drove him to turn on humans, disease, desperation, or something darker, remains debated. But in the misty Himalayan foothills, his legend still stalks the shadows, a reminder that even among the gods, death once walked on silent paws. The Sankebetsu brown bear. In the bitter cold of December 1915, the quiet village of Sankebetsu, nestled in the snow-covered wilderness of Hokkaido, Japan, became the setting for one of the most terrifying animal attacks in Japanese history. It came not from myth or legend, but from the forest, on 4 legs with black eyes, blood-stained fur, and a name that would never be forgotten: Kesagake, the shoulder cutter. A monstrous Ezo brown bear, over 8 feet tall and weighing more than 800 pounds, Kesagake descended from the mountains, driven by hunger and rage. What began as a raid on crops quickly turned into a 6-day bloodbath. The bear attacked multiple households, smashing through walls, mauling entire families, and leaving trails of destruction in the snow. 7 villagers were killed, including women and children. 3 others were severely injured. The horror escalated with each attack. Villagers fled into the forest, terrified and helpless. Gunfire and traps failed. The bear outsmarted them all, returning night after night, as if possessed by vengeance. Whispers of a demonic spirit spread. Even seasoned hunters feared the beast that moved like a ghost and killed like a monster. Finally, on the 6th day, salvation came in the form of Yamamoto Heikichi, a skilled bear hunter with a grudge. He had once failed to kill Kesagake years before. This time, he wouldn't miss. Tracking the bear with deadly precision, Heikichi finally cornered it and brought it down with a single fatal shot. The village never recovered from the trauma. Homes were abandoned, fields left to wild grass. But the tale of Kesagake endures, a chilling reminder that in the frozen silence of Hokkaido's woods, nature once rose in fury, and for 6 harrowing days a bear ruled with blood. Osama the elephant, king of terror in Kenya's Aberdare forest. In the heart of Kenya's lush Aberdare forest, during the turbulent 1990s, a nightmare took form, not in the shape of a man, but an unstoppable force of nature. His name was Osama, a rogue elephant whose fury left a trail of devastation and death across the villages surrounding the forest. Osama was no ordinary elephant. Towering and powerful, he roamed with rage, smashing homes, trampling crops, and charging at anyone who dared cross his path. His reign of terror lasted years, leaving at least 27 people dead and countless others injured. Entire communities lived in constant dread, their lives upended by the relentless assault of this giant beast. Witnesses spoke of Osama's terrifying charges, an immense shadow crashing through trees, trumpeting a warning before destruction. He wasn't just defending territory. This elephant seemed consumed by a savage anger, targeting humans with calculated aggression. Villagers fled to the hills or barricaded themselves indoors, praying their homes would withstand the next rampage. The Kenyan authorities launched a massive manhunt, assembling hunters, trackers, and wildlife experts to bring Osama down. Months of tracking through thick forests, rivers, and rugged terrain tested their resolve. But Osama was clever and elusive, slipping through traps and outsmarting hunters time and again. Finally, in 1996, the hunt ended. Osama was cornered and killed, ending the nightmare that had gripped the Aberdare region. His death brought relief, but also a haunting question. What drove this majestic creature to such fury? Osama's story is a powerful reminder that even the mightiest of nature's giants can turn into monsters when pushed too far, and that sometimes the wild fights back in the most terrifying ways.